obunabbi is given by the Spirit of God. Buweebwa n'omwoyo wa Katonda. For prophecy, okuwa obunabbi is one of the gifts kyekimu ku birabo of God. Kyekimu ku birabo bya Katonda. Prophecy, obunabbi is given to reveal buweebwa okwolesa what lies ahead, ekiri mu maaso, that God's people, nti abantu ba Katonda may not perish, baleme okusaanawo. When we give a prophecy, bwe tuwa obunabbi, or when we prophesy, oba bwe tuwako obunabbi, it is not because we are powerful. Tekiri tuli b'amaanyi, no, nedda. Naye the kabonero to show you okulaga that God is real. Nti Katonda wa ddala is a symbol. The kabonero that shows you akakulaga that there is danger ahead. Nti waliwo obulabe mu maaso. Jesus is real. Nti Yesu wa ddala. Still relates with his chosen ones. Akyakolagana n'abalonde be to speak to generation. Okwogera eri emigigi for the salvation of souls. Olw'obulokozi bw'emmeeme.
I saw
Nalabye
there were people.
waliwo abantu
They were targeting a certain person.
baali baluubirira omuntu
But now this person was on a flight.
naye omuntu nali ku nnyonyi.
I don't know, but he seems to be a prominent person.
Simanyi naye aleka muntu amanyikiddwa.
And I saw
Nalabye era
it was like also in a plane,
yabadde naye mu nnyonyi
but it led to an attack.
naye kyaleetedde okulumbibwa.
And it was like as if also it led to a plane crash, whatever. I don't know, but this aeroplane got a problem.
naye kyo kyaleetedde ennyonyi okuwaatwa naye kyo kyaleetedde ennyonyi obuzibu.
And all people got problems.
Abantu banafuna obuzibu.
In the last hour, it's been confirmed that Yevgeny Prigozhin, head of the Wagner group, was on board the private jet that crashed near Moscow. This is still very much an evolving situation, one that the UK government has said that it is monitoring. In the US, President Biden has said there's not much that happens in Russia that Putin's not behind. Our first report is from our Russia editor, Steve Rosenberg.
Caught on camera, the final seconds of a private jet. On board, reportedly, the head of the Wagner mercenary group, Yevgeny Prigozhin. Look over there by the farm, it's burning, the eyewitness can be heard saying. In the distance, a giant cloud of smoke. The Embraer plane had crashed in the Tver region of Russia, north of Moscow. Mr. Prigozhin's right-hand man, Wagner commander Dmitry Utkin, is also thought to have been on board. Later, a Wagner-linked Telegram channel confirmed that Yevgeny Prigozhin had been killed. It claimed it was the result of the actions of traitors of Russia. It's 2 months to the day since the Wagner chief launched what he called his March of Justice, his mutiny, the insurrection by Wagner forces who'd been fighting on the Kremlin side in Ukraine. They'd rolled unopposed into the city of Rostov. Their demands, the removal of Russia's senior military leadership, who they blamed for setbacks on the battlefield. There were these extraordinary scenes as the paramilitary chief admonished Russian generals. And then they marched on in the direction of Moscow, in a direct challenge to the authority of President Putin. The Kremlin leader called it treachery. Russia, he said, had been stabbed in the back. The mutineers would be punished.
I saw
Nalabye
there were people.
waliwo abantu
They were targeting a certain person.
baali baluubirira omuntu
But now this person was on a flight.
naye omuntu nali ku nnyonyi.
I don't know, but he seems to be a prominent person.
Simanyi naye aleka muntu amanyikiddwa.
And I saw
Nalabye era
it was like also in a plane,
yabadde naye mu nnyonyi
but it led to an attack.
naye kyaleetedde okulumbibwa.
And it was like as if also it led to a plane crash, whatever. I don't know, but this aeroplane got a problem.
naye kyo kyaleetedde ennyonyi okuwaatwa naye kyo kyaleetedde ennyonyi obuzibu.
And all people got problems.
Abantu banafuna obuzibu.
There are still a lot of questions around how a plane linked to Russian warlord Prigozhin ended up in a field in a ball of flames.
Well, I think just because people were targeting an individual on that plane.
kubanga bali balubirira omuntu ku nnyonyi eyo.
Yes.
Ye.
2 months after he led a failed mutiny against Vladimir Putin, Russian mercenary leader Yevgeny Prigozhin is reported to have been killed. This footage, verified by the BBC, shows the moment his Wagner group's private jet hurtled to earth about 300 kilometres or 200 miles northwest of Moscow. Pictures have emerged of the aftermath of the crash, which happened about halfway through the flight from Moscow to St. Petersburg while the plane was at its cruising altitude. Trajectory data suggests the aircraft essentially dropped out of the sky. Russia's aviation agency shared what it claimed was a list of the passengers on the doomed flight, among them Mr. Prigozhin and key Wagner commander Dmitry Utkin. As police cordoned off the crash site, Russia's emergency ministry claimed that 10 bodies have been recovered from the wreckage. The BBC has not been able to independently verify this information yet, but outside the Wagner Group headquarters in St. Petersburg, mourners have been laying flowers and lighting candles. If Mr. Prigozhin is indeed dead, it would be an abrupt end, but it's not totally unexpected, as Will Vernon explains from Moscow.
I don't think this news has surprised anyone here today. Around an hour after that plane crash, the Russian Federal Aviation Authority, Rosaviatsia, released a statement confirming that Yevgeny Prigozhin's name was on the passenger manifest of that plane. And that is very fast for that particular agency. Rosaviatsia usually takes much longer to respond to incidents like this. And that already raised a few eyebrows here, because after all, speculation has been swirling for some time now, just exactly about what fate would await Yevgeny Prigozhin. When Yevgeny Prigozhin launched his mutiny exactly 2 months ago, his Wagner mercenaries seized a major Russian city and even marched on Moscow. You know, that was a major humiliation for the Kremlin, and Vladimir Putin is not the kind of man to forget that. So I think if Yevgeny Prigozhin was killed in that plane crash today, which seems likely, I think that will come as no shock whatsoever to most people here. In fact, I think most people will probably be surprised that it didn't happen sooner. Now, we don't know what exactly caused that crash. Russian media are saying that investigators are looking into a number of different possibilities, including what they're calling external actions.
Well, I think just because people were targeting an individual on that plane.
kubanga bali balubirira omuntu ku nnyonyi eyo.
Now, Mary Skybo, former Inspector General for the U.S. Department of Transportation. Mary, thank you so much for bringing your expertise tonight. I want to play again that video of the plane that is falling out of the sky. You were an expert on plane crashes. What do you think happened looking at this video?
Well, there's so many clues here in the video. First of all, as you mentioned, it was at 28,000 feet in cruise. That's the safest part of the flight. With the seemingly missing the wing, and this simply doesn't happen. Commercial airliners, commercial planes, modern aircraft do not lose the wing. In my decades of working on plane crashes, I've only had one commercial plane that lost a wing, and it was 54 years old. And also the rate of descent, you know, a normal rate of descent is 1,000 to 3,000 feet permitted, not 8,000. It was clearly falling. And if you look very closely at the video, you can see some other, not just the plane, but you can see some flashes, you can see other smoke, you can see debris separating from the plane. So there's just so many clues here that this was an explosion on the plane or a missile strike. And by the way, the descent is like other shoot downs we've seen, like MH17, the jetliner that was shot down by a Buk Russian missile, and the Ukraine Airlines that was shot down by Iran. So we have a lot of clues in this video.
Let's take a look, a close-up look of what appears to be the missing wing here. Tell us what you were seeing.
Well, that's what it appears to be, and there have been some reports. Now, we don't know if they're reliable yet. That there were others that reported that seeing a missing wing and perhaps even an engine that fell separate, or part of the tail that fell separate from the plane. But you just do not have a situation where a modern aircraft, and this airplane, I mean, I'm familiar with the Embraer. You see, is a modern plane, and it just never happens. You do not lose a wing from your aircraft in this day and age.
I want to take a look at what is left of the plane after it crashed. It is completely engulfed in flames. We have learned there were 10 people total on board. Russian media says at this point 8 bodies were found at the crash site so far. How hard or easy will it be to try to identify those bodies and just to know for sure, to confirm for sure that Prigozhin was on board?
Right. Well, you know, the world has a great amount of expertise in working crashes, and there are companies that do precisely this. And so if there's a cooperating investigative agency with DNA samples, it is actually, I won't say easy, but in most cases, all of the human remains are identified. It's done through DNA and other methods. And even in just a total explosion and burning situation like this, the human body has a lot of water content. In almost all cases where you have the remains, you can identify them if the investigators are inclined to work on it.
Yes.
iye
So let us pray so much.
asabe ennyo nnyini ddala
Let us pray so much.
asabe ennyo nnyo